We started developing the Nevis around about 3 years ago, and that coincided with the time really that Bren Orton, one of our lead whitewater sponsored athletes, started running ridiculously difficult whitewater. And I think we just wanted to really keep up with the sport really. The Extreme has done very well for us, but the current iteration of the Extreme is about 10 years old now. So it was about time we started to really kind of ramp things up, and you know, we love the sport, we have a lot of friends in this sport, and you know, we just really want to keep everybody safe. We want to keep our buddies safe out on the river. Palm supported a trip to Papua New Guinea, a whitewater trip with Lowell Collins and Rob Hind, and we designed the Waggy vest, which was the very, very original iteration of what now is the Extreme vest. And the Extreme has been iterated and improved all that time. But obviously it was based on a fairly old concept. So with the Nevis, we wanted to really rethink the whole whitewater PFD design from scratch again. Well, the Nevis took maybe, I think, 12 samples over 3 years. So yeah, we try stuff, you know, we put stuff in, we test it, doesn't work, we take it out, we change it, make another sample, test it, you know, find out what works and what doesn't. So it's just this constant improvement and refinement system until eventually you end up with a product that appears inevitable. And as soon as you get that feeling, that's when you know it's done. We've obviously developed the Nevis pretty much hand in hand with Bren Orton. Obviously his kayaking prowess is incredible, but really off the water as well. He's always thinking about new concepts. I mean, he's right there at the cutting edge of whitewater, so he comes up with his own ideas a lot, you know, thinking laterally as well. So he's been a real bonus to the development of the Nevis. I took one of the samples, early samples of the Nevis, which still had the 3D waist belt. And with this prototype, I cut the waist belt off and I moved it up inside the PFD just to see what would happen. And I went out on the river, and by moving the waist belt up inside the PFD, it made it shorter, and it also it tensioned around the rib cage more than around the waist. I'd been a little bit reticent to lock anything to your rib cage. I think you worry that your rib cage is part of the breathing process and that it might be restrictive. But it really wasn't. It was a real kind of light bulb moment went off, and it was like, well, actually this is actually much better than the 3D waist system. So I was intrigued. I came back and I did a little bit of research about your rib cage, and I discovered that actually your rib cage doesn't move a lot from side to side. It moves up and down, and a lot of the breathing happens below the rib cage. So the rib cage is actually a pretty stable spot to attach a PFD to. The magic of the system is having a chassis inside the PFD, so it's almost like a PFD within a PFD. So you have a very lightweight, flexible foam delta system that you crank down first, and that doesn't really affect the rest of the foam. So you can tighten up the delta fit system without having to tighten the rest of the PFD up so much that you then really can't move. The chest harness as we know it was invented, I think, by the AKC, the Alpina Kayak Club, who were really pushing the limits back in the mid and late 70s. The current design of the chest harness is basically unchanged, so we felt we could improve on that and take another swing at it. Some of the shortcomings of the traditional chest harness system were highlighted to us through a lot of the research that Lowell Collins had been doing at the University of Central Lancashire. He had basically taken a chest harness on a PFD, and they'd done multiple releases just to understand the likelihood of there being a problem when it comes to releasing the chest harness. So he published a paper on this, and Palm were really lucky to be able to work with him and to be able to see his findings. And from all this research, we were able to design and develop the new Piggyback chest harness system on the Nevis. So the result is a load-bearing, adjustable length chest harness that you can adjust with a single pull. It's now a set-it-and-forget-it system, so you don't need to interact with the buckle, putting the PFD on and off. And the length of loose webbing from the buckle is now a fixed amount, it's a set distance. So that doesn't move anymore. And what that means is we can basically set up the chest harness to work correctly at the factory, and then you don't ever need to touch that or interact with that system again until you need to release the chest harness. So it completely eliminates any user error there. So to make this chest harness work, we needed load-bearing buckles, just like you would find in a climbing harness. But really, at the end of the day, the best solution was to design our own aluminium hardware, which is much stronger, and it just works intuitively. It just works exactly the same as a normal plastic tension lock buckle, but because it's made of 7000 series aluminium, and because it's been designed by us in-house to lock off at the appropriate loading, it's a real improvement in simple usability and also strength and safety. One of the aims with the Nevis again was to improve the storage. So what we did was we still have the central pocket, but we added more pockets around it so that you can categorize and distribute your gear throughout the PFD rather than in one central location. The front pocket now is a clamshell pocket, so it's stiffened and it hinges down and opens nice and wide. We've got two stash pockets on the side, Velcro opening stash pockets, which are great for a sling or carabiners. We have a phone pocket on the inside front and a rear pocket too. We have the improved knife pocket, so the Nevis now has a folding knife sleeve, and then also we've added a loop that you can attach a sheath knife to. And then finally, one day Simon Westgarth came to me and said, I've got an idea, why don't we just have one big pocket on the front of the PFD in between the foam that is the whole size of the front shell. And yeah, we gave it a go, and yeah, we invented the Simon Stash, and it works really, really well for just bundling gear into there if you need to get loaded up in a hurry, or you can spread your sling out and put it in there so you've got instant access to your sling. And it's great for storing important pieces that you want to perhaps keep hidden and secure to keep them nice and safe. PFDs have been made in the past from expanded PVC foam, but the manufacture of PVC is not great. It's quite toxic. It's quite a toxic material, quite a toxic process. So we've moved over now to a non-PVC foam. It works exactly the same way as PVC foam. It's approximately the same density, the same kind of flexibility. We're using Gaia at the moment, and then also we use a combination of Gaia and expanded polyethylene foam. So polyethylene is the same polymer that we make whitewater kayaks out of, and it's fairly inert, it's non-toxic, and it's recyclable. So yeah, we're trying to improve the environmental credits of all our products here at Palm.